I am Vinnie Tortorich, folks. Your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent when we start this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. This is the Friday show. This is the one where we get people way smarter than me to come in and drop all kinds of crazy knowledge on us. And this guy had me on his popular podcast just the other day, and I did that thing I do where before we go off the air, said they can't say no to me. I said, "Hey man, would you mind coming on my show?" And he was gracious enough to say yes, and didn't want to embarrass himself by saying no. I'm talking about Dr. Thomas Hemingway, board certified doctor. That a lot of times we'll have people on there. They'll say, "Oh, I'm a doctor," and this, that, and the whole thing. And they went to the School of Chiropractic. And I get it. That's a doctoral degree of some degree. But I like when I get the MDs and the board certified guys on, because their knowledge is on a different level. And this guy, he's got a book coming out soon. And I want to say it's called something about preventable, entirely preventable. We'll ask him what it's called. But I'm more interested in the 7 out of 10 ways that this is right there on his on the top of his short sheet. Did you know 7 out of the 10 ways of to leading cause of death worldwide could be entirely preventable? And when I read that, I said, I gotta talk to this guy, because if he could give me a 70% chance of living longer, that's 7 out of 10. Why the F not? I'm talking to Dr. Thomas Hemingway. How you doing, buddy?
Aloha, Vinny. So great to be here. Thanks for having me on. So appreciate you.
By the way, folks, aloha to the rest of the United States means hello and goodbye in Hawaii. So you weren't born and raised in Hawaii, were you?
So I moved out to Hawaii in the 1992, and I've been there the better part of the last 30 years. So I'm turning 50 next year. The majority of my life has been in Hawaii, so I can't help but say aloha.
Where do you hail from?
So from the island of Kauai, which is the farthest to the north, that special garden island where they film all those Jurassic Park movies, that beautiful place, that's where I spend a lot of my time.
And where did you start life?
So I was born and raised in California, spent the better part of my upbringing in California, but then I went to college in Hawaii, and they had me convinced that that was the place. That was the Garden of Eden that had the best surfing, the most beautiful landscapes, and dang it, the climate is so nice there. I couldn't resist. So I came back to California, did my medical degree, and then I shot back out to Hawaii.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you get your MD there? But where did you go for your medical?
So I went to the University of California, San Diego, UCSD, which is a top 10 medical school. I graduated top of my class. And I went to the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, for my specialty training. And that's where I got my board certification later. And then I've had that for, gosh, almost 2 decades.
Did you go back to Hawaii to do your residency, or where did you do that?
So I did that mostly in California, actually, in LA, right in the epicenter of all the health crises and all of the stuff that happens. I mean, when you got a population that big, you're seeing it all. So I wanted to be in the place where I could see and do everything, and then get back out to the place I loved, which was Hawaii.
Yeah, a good friend of mine is a big deal over at Good Sam over in LA, and some of the stuff she tells me, she keeps a stack of my books. She buys 50 at a time, and she buys them retail from Amazon. She'll just get 50 at a time, and she keeps them. And when she goes through and makes her rounds, if someone's 300, 400, 500 pounds, she just apparently she throws it right on their belly, right in their bed, and go, read this, just read this.
That's awesome.
She makes no bones about it. She's gotten in trouble for doing that a few times, but she was like, I don't care. I'm trying to save people. And
she's doing the right thing.
Keep saying to it, X, we call her Dr. X on here on my show because we don't give her name out. Said, X, my book is not the best book for that. She goes, it's motivating. Shut up. I'm handing your book out. and she's been doing that now for like 10 years. So the reason my book was a multi-bestseller is because one doctor keeps buying it and winging it at patients while they're still in the hospital. You're in Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii is one of those places. I've been to Hawaii twice. Now, this is going to be the douchiest thing you're going to ever hear on this podcast ever. But here goes.
Let's hear it.
I was only there, and this is cringeworthy.
Bated breath. Come on.
I was only there for modeling gigs. I'm actually turning red saying this. When I first moved to LA, I don't know if you won't know this story about me, but I had this whole thing going on in New Orleans. I was doing, the ABC affiliate, the NBC affiliate would have me come on. I was kind of the health and fitness guy down in New Orleans. I had a radio show called Talking Fitness on WSMB. I had all this stuff going on. Big fish, small pond. I move out to LA. Nobody knows my name. I'm just in LA, and I got to figure out a way to make a living. And this actress, you may remember this actress. She's exactly my age. She's a vegan, and she still looks awesome. So, hey, folks, go vegan. Alexandra Paul.
It's working out.
Yeah. Do you know the actress Alexandra Paul?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't think of exactly.
She was like a hot, skinny chick on Baywatch the second time around. She was in a bunch of movies early on in the 80s and that kind of thing. She had a pretty big career. And she became a quick friend of mine when I first moved out there. And she goes, she saw me without a shirt on one day and I was ripped out. And she goes, you could be a model. And I said, no, Alexandra, I mean, I see these guys on a runway, they're sticks, they're emaciated. She goes, no, you could be a commercial model. And I was like, I'm not good looking enough. I don't think they would go for a guy like me. And she said, oh, no, you don't understand. In LA, they will pay big bucks for your abs. And I was like, you don't say these things. She was like, oh, yeah. She goes, guys are killing themselves to look like you look. And it never occurred to me before that moment. She gave me a couple of agencies to walk into. Here's how much of a babe in the woods I was. I didn't know that you can only go in there on special days. I didn't know how it all worked. I just walked into a modeling agency and said, hey, my friend told me you're a pretty big deal. And they were like, yeah, come back on Wednesday when we see blah, blah, blah. We see everybody on Wednesday. And I was like, all right. And then I went to the next one. It was like, hey, my friend Alexandra said, hey, you guys might be interested. And they were like, yeah, we don't just take walk-in solicitation, the whole thing. Where's your portfolio? And I'm like, my what? And she goes, your portfolio. You don't even know that. Do you have a Z card? I'm like, a what? And she was like, have you ever modeled before? And I went, well, no. And she was like, so you've never modeled and you don't have anything. And I said, no, I don't. I mean, like I've been on a billboard and in New Orleans, they put me on a billboard. There was several of them around New Orleans. And she goes, yeah, that's not, no. And I'm like, all right, well, thanks. I was like Jethro. I was country go to city, man. And well, the woman who owns the agency was probably right behind her somewhere and heard this conversation. And she steps out. She's got this German accent. She goes, excuse me. Her name was Irina. And this was the Irina Kamal agency. And Irina steps, she goes, you say billboards. I went, yeah. And she was like, can you lift up your shirt for me? And this felt, I'm like, saying, huh? What? She was like, lift up your shirt. And I lifted my shirt up and she goes, come back here. And I was like, is this like a porn thing? I don't know what's going on, right? And she said, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to hook you up with a couple of photographers. We're going to get this working. And I said, well, I can't, I'm trying to make money. I can't go pay for, she goes, no, I will pay for it. And, I'll show you what it costs and we'll work it all. I can have you working next week. And because of that, I ended up in Hawaii. I ended up in
That's
South
amazing.
America. I ended up in Canada. You name it. I had to have a passport. I started not for Hawaii, of course. But that's the only time I ever went to Hawaii twice based on that. Just to go
You got to
do.
go back, man.
Yeah, I've never visited, but yeah, I should go back and visit, right?
Yeah, now you gotta come look me up. I'll go take you surfing. We'll get out there and you can rip off that shirt and show those abs that you still got, man.
I'm 60 years old, man. They look a little droopy now. So here's the thing. This surfing you speak of. I grew up water skiing. You jump out of the boat, you grab a rope, you say, all right, I'm ready. And they take off and you ski around a bit. You get tired, you go, okay, I've had enough. And you drop the rope, the boat swings around, picks you up. It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
Surfing is like, you see these guys, they're counting waves, keep counting, and then they figure out, oh, okay. And then they get their board and they go out there. They do a lot of work to get out there. Then they sit on the board and they're looking behind them. Are they looking for sharks? What are they looking for? They're waiting for the wave, right?
Waiting for the right wave. And in Hawaii, those waves can be pretty darn huge. So you want to time things right. You want to be in the right place at the right time so you don't just get crushed. You don't get cycled, as we say.
Yeah. So, and then you do it, but you just go a couple of feet and then you got to take your board and go out there and wait again. Seems like a lot of work for just a small amount of payoff, right?
It seems that way, but man, I'm telling you, when you drop into these giant waves and you're just looking ahead of you and this thing is just cresting over your head and you're in that proverbial tube or the barrel, there's nothing like that. You're like in the vortex. It's like going back in time. It's amazing, but I agree with you, man. It is short-lived and it's a heck of a lot of work, and it's a lifelong pursuit. I'll be honest, and I'll just tell you right now, I want everybody on the show to be able to keep me accountable. I will be the first surfer who continues to surf to 100 years old. I'm just going to go ahead and say it here on the air because that's what I'm aiming to do. I'm aiming to live at least till I'm 120 and surf till I'm 100 at least. So I'm going to make my mark.
Well, at 50 years old, you're pretty ripped out. I mean, I could just see your arms, I could see your neck and your face. I mean, you're a pretty chiseled dude. I mean, do you work out a lot? How do you stay in shape? How do you stay looking like that?
I do mostly body weight stuff. So right before we jumped on this afternoon, I had to do 20 pull-ups. I can do 20 right in a row. I can do two hand, one hand. I can do whatever. I dropped down. I did 100 push-ups as well, just to kind of get me in state, get me ready for this. And mostly I just do that. I do have some free weights, but I mostly like just body weight exercises, and I surf every chance I get. When I'm at home in Hawaii, I surf every day, sometimes twice a day. And that keeps me chiseled. I still got my 6+ pack, 8-pack. I don't know. I stopped counting. Some people say it's 8. Some people say it's 10. Some say 6. I don't know. You be the judge.
Well, it depends on whether you count the serratus muscles and, the whole deal, right? Yeah. So your obliques come in from the side. You could count that as another bump, a bump here, bump there. So you're not just looking at the rectus abdominis. If you like, people always say to me, how do you get all like the 12-pack? As Gina Grab once called it. And I said, well, you're looking at the rectus abdominis molding into the obliques, and up top around your ribs, you have the serratus muscles, and it all leads to looking like something. Yeah. That makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. I was right there with you in anatomy lab back in the day. I know you were there and I was there, gross anatomy. We had all that. And I'm just trying to keep that all together for a lot more years, just like you. I'm trying to do what you've done.
Yeah, look, I just did a podcast the other day with this kid. Scott King is going to come out on a Wednesday in 2 weeks. Scott's been on the show a few times. He's lost like 300 pounds, paying attention to NSNG. And now he wants to get into weightlifting. The first thing he did was he got into aerobics. Now he wants to get into weightlifting. And as I tell everyone, you don't have to exercise to lose weight. And we talked about this in your podcast.
Yeah.
But weightlifting is the fountain of youth. So it's it's up to you pretty much what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a quick ad, but I want to jump right into the 7 of 10 things that if you do them correctly, you can live to be, did you say 120?
That's my personal goal, but like I said, surfing to 100, I'm going to be perfectly happy with that. That's my first goal, surfing till I'm 100. Well, and not just like getting towed by a boat. I'm talking getting my own waves, paddling in, all that. Just the traditional surfing.
I just want, I'd like to get to 100, although I don't think I'm going to get that far. But if it looks like I'm going to make 100, I'm going to start smoking in that 99th year. Because whenever they come, the local news comes and they go, oh yeah, this guy lived to be 100. Hey, Vinnie, how did you do it? I want to have one in my mouth going, packing a half a day every day.
Skydiving the next day, all that.
Yeah, just everything. I'm gonna have like 3 cigarettes hanging in my mouth, a scotch in my hands, like never missed a day of scotch from my 13th birthday on out, cigarettes and scotch. I just want to do that. Right.
I want to see it, man. I can't wait.
I've been living
there
my entire life. I've been living one way, just watching everything. I just want to just go, cigarette. Because they always do that. You ever notice they did that guy, African-American guy. He's in America. He's like the oldest American. And he's this African-American down in Mississippi somewhere. And they were like, so what's your secret? And the guy goes, cheap 5-cent cigars. I smoke 5 of them a day, my entire life. And they show him lighting one off of the stove, which that's how a real man does it, right?
That's hardcore.
Sitting there with a $10, $20 cigar like my friends do. No. This guy's got a nickel cigar and he's got his head down to the stove. I went, oh man, I want to be that dude. That's how you do it, right? Yeah. So folks,
my gosh.
Check it out. Go Villa Capelli. I'm going to say this ad early in the show because we're getting ready to get into it with Dr. Hemingway here. Villa Capelli olive oil, the best olive oil on the planet, bar none. I'm not making this stuff up. In America, and even the outer parts of America, the non-contiguous states like Hawaii and Alaska, we're allowed to lie. And we can say, hey, it's 100% pure olive oil. It could be cut up to 40% with seed oils. I got a feeling Dr. Hemingway is going to talk about seed oils 7 ways in a few minutes. Seed oils, folks. Not at Villa Capelli. It's 100% pure olive oil. I use that olive oil over at purevitaminclub.com to make my vitamin D, my D3 with metaquinone 4 and metaquinone 7. But that's neither here nor there. You want to get Villa Capelli, you want to save some money, put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE, 10% off. There are 3 ways to save. When you buy a lot of olive oil, so if you buy a 3-liter 10, you save some money. Number 2, if you spend over $100 after the discount, you will get free shipping. That's a big savings. And then you'll get the 10% off. So spend about $115, $120, get 10% off. You'll still be over $100. You'll get free shipping. Bada bing, bada boom. Villa Capelli, let them know we sent you. Promo code Vinnie, VINNIE. Do not put the wimpy Y or you're not going to get your 10% off. And it won't be my fault. It's, that's on you. Talking to Dr. Thomas Hemingway. Tommy, come on, 7 ways. What are we doing?
You just nailed it right there. The fountain of youth, pure 100% extra virgin olive oil, pressed, not processed. You just named it right there. Like, mic drop, we're done. No, okay.
I thought you were going to get a cigar, the 5-cent cigar. I was going to go out and buy myself a whole box.
Sorry, man. I can't do that one. That wouldn't work with my medical doctorate. I would be hung out to dry on that. And for some of the stuff I say, I may be anyway, because the reason I got so into this is because we in Western medicine are not doing a very good job at chronic disease. So what Vinnie was talking about is 7 out of 10 of the leading causes of death worldwide, not just in the US, but worldwide, are almost entirely preventable. So these are things like heart disease. Did you know that in the US alone, 1 person every 30 seconds dies of a heart attack, dies of heart disease? And that is nearly 100% preventable. So heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, obesity and its complications, kidney disease, lung disease, these are all preventable. And so that's why I wrote the book, and it is called Preventable: 5 Powerful Practices to Avoid Disease and Build Unshakable Health. And I also have a podcast like Vinnie. I had him on the other day. It's called Unshakeable Health. But what I want to share with you is these 5 powerful principles. The first one we've talked about a little bit already, and that is food is the best medicine, or it's a slow poison. And we get to make that choice every single day. And so the super quick high level strategy for food is what Vinnie preaches every day. Eat real food, the stuff that doesn't need a label, the real stuff that's grown in the ground or that's raised in the field appropriately, that's eating the right diet, grass if it's a cow, for example, grass fed, grass finished, pasture raised poultry, for example, wild caught fish. You know, this is the best source. And then if you eat fruits and vegetables, fantastic. Make sure you get the ones that you're familiar with from a source that you can trust, because Vinnie will tell you, just because it says organic, it may not be exactly true. So if you can raise them yourself or get them from a neighbor and you know how they do their thing and they don't use pesticides, you are on it. And what I love to be the guy that tells people what they can add to their diet. Like, nobody wants to be told what to take away, right? We're human. We don't like people to tell us, don't do this, don't do that, because naturally we want to do the opposite. However, there are 3 things, I keep it real simple, that I recommend people avoid. And they are what I call the evil triad. And that is the highly processed grains and sugars and the seed oils that Vinnie has already alluded to. So those 3 things, which nearly come in everything with a label, you got to avoid, right? So all the crap processed gluten stuff, all the sugars, especially the high fructose corn syrup. Did you know, Vinnie, today, the most common cause of liver transplant is not what it used to be. It used to be alcohol, right? Alcohol-related liver disease. Now it is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease caused primarily by sugar, especially high fructose corn syrup. All of those sweet beverages that we love so much, whether they be soda or juice or whatever, that is the #1 cause of liver transplant today. Oh my gosh, I've seen children on the transplant list because of this.
There's a couple of things here. The term non-alcoholic fatty liver disease did not exist 5 minutes ago. It just did not exist. You know, you and I are 10 years apart. I'm 60, you're 50. Did not exist. Now, get a little history lesson. I'm going to probably get the date wrong by 1 year. I can't remember if it was 1972 or 73 when we had a sugar shortage here in the United States. You got to remember, we trade this stuff worldwide. And we had a big time shortage because a lot of the crops were decimated with hurricane after hurricane. I grew, look, most of my family grew sugar. I grew up in sugarcane. It's odd that the guy preaching no sugars, no grains, NSNG, grew up with family. I still have family that raised cane. My best friends raised cane. One of my best friends, his family raises cane, soybean, and beef. So I kind of like them. So in 72 or 73, I cannot remember the year, but crops were decimated. Not only our crops, but sugar beet crops were decimated because most of that's grown throughout the same region, but further closer to the equator. And these hurricanes just kept coming and sugar just got decimated. So for the first time in history, big companies like Coca-Cola, and by the way, folks, I'm paraphrasing. When you go look up the facts, you're going to say, oh, Vinnie was about 85% there. I'm not giving you facts right now. I'm just giving you a roundabout story. Coca-Cola, some of these different companies said, we got to change the formula because we gotta keep selling Coke. You ever notice now how you could get like real Coke? They call it original Coke from Mexico, because in Mexico they still put cane sugar in it. But most of the Coke made in the United States, not all of the Coke made in the United States, which is most of the Coke around the world, is done with high fructose corn syrup. We made a deal with, I want to say Japan or one of the Asian countries, to bring in this high fructose corn syrup to fill the gap. Look, we're dealing with this stuff right now. I have a vitamin company and people are trying to get me to put cheaper vitamins in my vitamins because we're having this problem because of COVID. I'm refusing to do it. If you guys have noticed a few times, I've been out of product because I refuse to use a lesser product. I'm doing that for you guys. Now, everyone's getting pissed at me. Come on, man, where's our vitamins? Come on, man. I'm not compromising. I'm not doing what Coca-Cola did in 1972 or 73. I'm sticking to my guns. And if I can't sell the right thing, I'm not going to sell it at all. But guess what? Coca-Cola went, we're too big to fail. We got to just start using this. Here's the problem. High fructose corn syrup is actually more addictive than regular sugar. It's sweeter, and they can use less of it to get the same taste out of a can of Coke, or in 72, a bottle of Coke. So it was like, wait a minute, we can now make Coke for cheaper than we did before. So we're going to stick with this. They could have gone back to sugar, and they went back to sugar in some regard, but they stuck with the high fructose corn syrup because it was cheaper. Now you can make more profit. Companies love profit. It's not a bad thing. They want profit. I get it. But that's when things started to change. That's when little things started happening, right? Along with the food pyramid, there was a lot of things that the McGovern committee finally said, screw it, we're going to go with this. But most people don't know the story about high fructose corn syrup and how it seeped in here right in the middle of all that. And next thing you know, fatty liver disease is not just something that alcoholics get to enjoy right before they die. It's now something everyone gets to enjoy. Non-alcoholic. They actually had to go, look, this person never had a drink in their life. They're in their 20s. They're dying of this. Where do you think that comes from? Whenever you open up a can of Del Monte peaches, what do you think's in there? What do you think that syrup is? High fructose corn syrup. What say you, Doc?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you are right, spot on. I just looked it up. The Guardian newspaper reports 1974. So 1973, 1974, you freaking crushed that one. I didn't know the exact year either. I thought it was 1960. So I thought it was before I was born, but right about the time
I knew it was around there. I'm going to tell you how I knew this. I'm going to tell you why I was able to get around the year. My relatives all got very, very wealthy that year for 1 year. Right. They all made a lot of money. I remember all my cousins had new cars because anyone who actually had sugarcane to get, the sucrose, was so, the price for sucrose was so high, their yield was so high that year. If you had any cane left, that they all made a lot of money, bought their kids cars, fixed up their houses, had new tractors in the field the next year. And then everything went right back down to normal. I just remembered I was like 12 years old and all my cousins were getting like new toys and stuff. Right. It was like, oh, I was like, well, sugarcane price. That's what happened. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So I had.
So it's in there.
Yeah.
It's that wicked. It's one of the top three wicked triad members. The sugar, which is primarily high fructose corn syrup nowadays. It's in everything. But you know what? Those artificial sweeteners aren't much better in a lot of regards. A lot of us think, oh, well, it says, no sugar or 0 calories. So the Coke must be amazing. Maybe I can use it for weight loss. So it doesn't work. And it doesn't work for a couple of reasons, because it affects that center in your brain that is responsible for cravings, that's dumping out that dopamine. You've heard of dopamine. And those artificial sweeteners do it in the same way. And besides that, they ruin your gut bacteria, your so-called microbiota, all those little guys living in you in your intestinal tract that actually can be super, super helpful for you if you eat what they like, the right kinds of stuff. If you have artificial sweeteners, you kill off the good guys and you propagate the bad guys. And so it's no better. Forget the artificial sweeteners. If it's 0 calorie soda of any kind, still try to avoid that. Stick with the good stuff, right? H2O, natural water. If you can get a great spring water with some electrolytes, even better. But couldn't agree more. The high fructose corn syrup, Vinnie, it is no good. And it's nearly the single-handed cause of the fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's a travesty.
Thomas, let's talk a little more about the fake sugar and the fake soft drinks, the low-cal soft drinks. We cannot find any of the backlogs or anything from my shows from when I was on WSMB. The station doesn't exist anymore. There is no. I want people to know that in 1989 and 90, I was yelling about diet soft drinks on that show. I was yelling about that and nutrition fact labels back in 1989. Everyone thought, oh, give this guy a tinfoil hat. And I had been in the industry at that point for like almost 10 years. And I was like, listen, guys, you cannot lose weight on diet soft drinks or using equal or the pink. They used to call it the blue stuff, the pink stuff, the yellow stuff. It was sweet and low. Yeah. Equal, and the yellow stuff was something else. I can't remember what they called it.
Splenda, probably.
Splenda.
Splenda.
And I would tell them, you can't lose weight putting this stuff in your coffee and tea and everything else. It does not work that way. And they would go, but there's no calories. I said, I don't care. It doesn't work that way. Show me a skinny person doing this. You cannot, right? And, oh, you're absolutely wrong about this. And now, people will still argue with me and go, I have a CGM on and I could drink one of those and nothing. It's like, yeah, it might not show up on a CGM, but trust me, you're releasing ghrelin and leptin. Your body is responding to this in ways that you don't even know that CGM is not picking up. What say you?
100%, because what happens is it's a little bit of trickery, right? Molecular trickery. It tells the body that it's sweet. And so your body expects to get a certain amount of calories, like the stuff that you would get with the equivalent amount of high fructose corn syrup or sugar. So what happens is when you have these artificial ones, NutraSweet, Splenda, all of those that you've heard of, what happens is your body thinks, crap, I drank all this sugary, it tasted really sugary and nice, but I got zero satisfaction. So you want to eat more and more and more. The body is intelligent. You can't outsmart it. We try to, as human scientists, especially these food scientists that have as their only job, and Vinnie will tell you this, to make money. They want to get us to buy more and more and more. So for them, it makes even more sense. If they put an artificial sweetener, guess what? We don't buy less, we buy more. We actually buy more. So for them, they love the diet sodas more than the regular sodas because people drink more of them, because the body thinks, I'm drinking this 12-ounce thing, I'm supposed to be getting 100 whatever grams of sugar, and I'm not. I got to drink more. I got to keep drinking more. And so your body thinks it needs more. That's the science of it. It's brilliant if you're trying to sell soda, but it's horrible for our body.
Yeah, people tell me every day, I do these consults. People could sign up and talk to me. And they'll say, look, you can tell me wherever you want. Do not tell me to go off of diet soft drinks, because I won't. I spend the next several minutes explaining to them, I would rather see you start smoking and drinking scotch. That's healthier than a diet soft drink. And they'll go, you don't understand, I'm addicted, I can't stop. And it's exactly what you were just saying. Your body, it's almost like when you put a puppy in water for the first time, the reason they start moving their feet is because they're trying to get traction, but there's no traction. And the next thing they realize, oh, wait, I'm floating and I'm moving forward. So this is good. But at first they're doing that. They're trying to get traction. Your brain is, when you put a fake sweetener in there, your brain is always trying to get traction. And, and look, it's so insidious, but it happens everywhere. I just did a video. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you the video. I'm going to play it on the pod. I just did this video. I'm going to be putting it up on my Instagram. By the time this comes out, it'll be on my Instagram. But I'm going to play this video if you think I'm kidding about this. So I was just at a gas station getting gas, right? And I looked around, and I'm the king of observation. I should have been a comedian. So I'm going to just play this, and you can hear what it does.
It may look like I'm at a gas station, but I'm at a junk food emporium. You see, they can't really make money on gas. It's a loss leader, but they can make money on the junk, right? And some gas stations actually have a monitor, a television monitor telling you, hey, come on inside, respect your hunger, feed that hunger. And remember a few short years ago, whenever you'd walk inside any of those buildings, they gave you a key to go outside to use the bathroom. Why? they didn't want you in there at all. And the bathrooms were never clean. Not anymore. All of the modern gas stations now have facilities inside where you have to walk past all of the junk food just to get to it. It's a trap, folks. Don't fall for it. Okay, stay motivated.
Yeah, that's what's coming up with my motivation tips tomorrow on Instagram. You know, I'm always letting people know. Think about that. A couple of years ago, number one, they didn't want you to take a leak at their gas station. Most of them would just say out of order, right? They didn't want to deal with cleaning it up that day. So the person working that shift would just put out of order. You know, sorry, you can't come in today. I don't feel like cleaning up after you. And if ever you got, remember, they would give you like a big stick with a key on it. You had to go outside. They were always outside, right? And if you go to some old-timey gas stations out in the middle of nowhere, you'll still find a gas station with the restroom outside with the big key with the big handle, right? And that place always looks horrible. It looks like a murder might have happened in there the night before, right? Now you go to any modern gas station, there's men's room, ladies' room, they're clean, they're nice. They want you coming inside. And those things are never by the front door. They're always tucked away in the back corner, and you have to pass rows and rows of junk food just to get to it, right? Is that by accident? Did this just all happen overnight by accident? What say you?
That was, like I said, it is brilliant. It is brilliant. At the end of the day, that's where they make their money, is selling all the sodas and snacks and sweet treats. And you're exactly right. I stop at these things often because I got 6 kids. And when we go for a road trip, everybody's got to pee at different times. It's so dang frustrating. And we have to walk through the maze to get to the restroom, which is always in the back. And most times my kids are like, hey, Dad, I saw this, blah, 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 blah. Can I get that? And, you know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, you know, kind of depends on my mood that day, but it's tough. It's tough. It's brilliant for making money, but it's the worst thing for our health.
How did you get to 6 kids? I mean, back when I was in college, they were saying the average person, 2.1 kids. Now it's probably down to 1.6 kids. I don't know how they get that 0.6. Would you like to be a half a kid? Yeah. But
I wouldn't. I mean, you know, they keep me young. It was, my wife wanted a girl. The real story is my wife wanted a girl. Okay. We had 4 boys in a row.
Wow.
And then she said, you know what, honey, I just feel like the next one is a girl. I really just want this girl. And I said, well, if you're going to be perfectly happy, don't lie to me, with a 5th boy, we can consider it. And we had a girl. Number 5 is a girl. And then, you know, a year later, she said, wouldn't it be sweet if she had a little sister? And I said, oh my gosh, a 5th boy is coming. Are you ready for the 5th boy? We had number 6, also a girl. So
wow,
we're done. It's perfectly matched. They got their little playmates. The 2 girls are at the tail end. I got 2 in college, and my 2 youngest are in elementary school.
So you're basically,
so it worked out,
right? You have to be broke at this point.
I'm telling you, man, it's right now I got 4 teenagers, and they're eating, you know, what I used to do as a teenager, eating 5,000 calories a day. And we try to get all the good stuff, the grass-fed and finished beef, and the, you know, grass-fed butter, and, you know, all the real food. And that stuff, I mean, I don't know, wherever you are in the world, unless you grow it yourselves, it can be a little bit on the pricey side. However, bad health is way more expensive. And I see that every day in my work. You cannot put a price on your health, and you can't buy it. You know, nobody's ever come to me, Vinnie. Did you know this? Not one time in actually more than 20 years, no one has ever come to me and said, hey, doc, I'm so upset. I'm so bummed. I have such perfect health. I can do everything I want to do. I get out of bed and I can go crush it on the trail. I can go swim thousands of meters. I can surf for a couple hours straight. I feel so awesome. I hate it. I'm in such good health. Never happened. Not once. But the opposite happens every day. People wish they could do things. They long for what they used to do in their teens or 20s, and they can't do it anymore.
Wow.
And it's because they've, you know, done what most of us have done. They've switched out real food for the processed stuff and the sugary drinks, and not getting their butt off the couch. And, you know, it's simple stuff like you preach. It's not hard.
Yeah. And look, I see the family next door. They have 4 kids, 4 boys. and they're all athletic, and they're all there. I have them, they come in my gym. I have them work out here at the gym and the whole thing. They're all, they play basketball in the cul-de-sac. And these parents aren't, I mean, the father's a cop, and mom works fairly full-time with an accounting agency. And I look at the meals they put on the table, because Serena and I, we're empty nesters, right? Like I don't sit around and tell everyone, oh, you must get this, expensive food. I get it. We're empty nesters. We're towards we're 60-year-olds. We can afford to feed ourselves in a nicer way. I get everyone can't do that, right? But I look at this family and they're doing it, and they're doing it on regular incomes, right? Nobody over there is killing it. Nobody's a captain of industry. We're talking about a cop and an accountant with 4 boys, right? It can be done. I'm sure it's not easy. I'm sure there are times when they're trying to make ends meet, and on and on and on. I'm guessing all of that is true, right?
It's true. It can be done. I can speak to that, having 6 kids. I even did a podcast on it a while back called, can you eat healthy on a budget? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yeah. You absolutely can. It is possible.
My dog had some kind of something going on for a while, and I had to get my dog onto really good food, right? And so we were getting better and better dog foods, stuff with no grains and the whole thing. And I looked around. I buy a lot of ground beef. I use ground beef to cover my diet, right? That's my trick. A lot of eggs, a lot of ground beef. And I'm looking at the ground beef, and I came home and I looked at the dog food, the super high-end dog food. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. I can feed my dog the same ground beef I'm eating for less than this dog food. And within like a week and a half, the vet's going, what happened? This dog is in perfect. The dog foods are killing dogs, right? It's like all the crap in dog foods. Now, you have to make a decision, right? I can't just give my dog human grade meat every day. But I found ways around it, right? When we buy we buy big giant porterhouse steaks, one big steak on special can feed me and Serena, and there's enough left on that porterhouse bone for the dog. You find ways to keep that going, right? Normally you would throw that away. That dog can hammer that, right? I know this sounds hoity-toity, but it's not that. That's not the point I'm trying to get to. There are ways around this that you can do and not cost a fortune for a dog or kids and everything else. You can make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the most important things is just if you plan ahead a little bit, what I found with 6 kids is if you do we do a once a week kind of meal plan. We're going to have tacos this night. We're going to have steak on the grill the next night. We're going to eat our chicken the next night. My wife has this real cool way to cook it up. It's kind of like a little bit of a curry style. And then the next night, we just kind of plan it out. And that way, when we go to the store, we're very purposeful. We shop on the perimeter. We get all of our real food, and we know what we're going to eat. Because when you don't know, we do this, kind of grazing thing where the kids, they just kind of pick up whatever's there and they eat it, and then they want more. And, it just doesn't work out that way. If you just plan your meals ahead of time, it really, it saves you money. It really does. And then for us, if we go eat out, we try to do that only, special occasions, birthdays, or a couple times a year, because it's like $300 to feed a family of 8 these days. No matter where you go, you could go to the local Mexican restaurant. It's still $300,
It's crazy. Yeah, eating out. We don't, I used to enjoy going out at least once a week. I used to go out more than once a week to eat out. We're down to like twice a month. Because you sit there when you're signing that bill, you're going, this is a week's worth of food, money. We just spent a budget of a week's worth of food on one meal that's not as good as what we eat at home. And the only reason we do it is so we don't have to clean up. We can just sign a bill, turn around and walk out. I'll look around and go, I don't mind cleaning up. I put on music. We got the Sonos in the kitchen, turn on the music. We call it montage music. We just turn on some music and boom, we just rock and roll. Get into a little bit. When I was looking at your list before I put it away, you talked about things to do to boost energy. I want to get into that. And also I want to talk about sleep hygiene. I talk about that usually when I have a sleep specialist on, but I remember seeing that. I forgot to tell you, I have a photographic memory. So I read this thing earlier, and you mentioned sleep being important, sleep apnea, and the whole thing. I want to talk about those two things.
Okay. Let me just give people the quick mnemonic, and we'll talk about the sleep and we'll talk about the energy. But my sort of five-pronged approach is FMSGs. So we all hate MSG anyway, right? You put another S on the end, FMSGs, and the F is the food. Okay. The M is movement. Vinnie talks all about that, whatever that is for you. Weightlifting, I hope it's part of that, some sort of resistance training. And then the first S is sleep, right? FMSG. The G is gut health. And the cool thing about gut health is it is when you get your body healthy at the same time, concomitantly, you're getting your gut healthy, because it has to do with eating real food, has to do with sleep and sleep hygiene. Those little guys in your gut, they respond to circadian rhythm. End of story. So it's so many of the things you're already doing. So it's easy. The last one is stress optimization. We all have a lot of stress. The pandemic has put us through lots more than we ever had before. And there's some simple strategies there. So that's the mnemonic FMSGs for you guys to all remember that simply: food, sleep, movement, gut health, optimizing stress. And what did I miss? FMSG, gut health. Yeah, we said them all. So all five. So right now, let's talk a little bit about energy. How do you get more energy? We all want more energy, right? We want to wake up and be like Vinnie and go work out for, I don't know how long you work out.
Vinnie looks like
pushing
crap
up some
in the
big
morning.
weight.
Vinnie looks like crap in the morning. Was I talking to you about this or someone else? No, I was talking to the woman who cuts my hair. Look at this haircut.
Okay.
Brand new
She
hair.
didn't leave you much. She didn't leave you much.
Cut all of them.
That's right.
Yeah,
Your ears got lower. Come on.
Boom. He's here all night, folks. I was saying, I said, I don't know if I work hard, but like I'm going to be working until 11 o'clock tonight, right? I can adjust my day because I don't have an office. I just have to get X amount of things done every day. I got to do podcasts. I run a company. I do all this stuff, but most of it can be done in hours when most people are watching television. I tend not to like to watch television that much, especially my wife likes to watch different stuff. So I work out. I work at night. So when I get up in the morning, I was telling the hairdressers, I said, you're not going to believe this, but I spend an hour stretching, just stretching, because, I have all these old football injuries and all these old, injuries from rock climbing and mountain biking. I stretch for an hour and then I'll look pretty good. I'm moving around, man. I look like a normal person. And then I go to the gym, or I either work out in this gym or I go to the gym in town and I crank out, a pretty strenuous workout for an old guy. And then later on that day, I will find a time to do at least 1 hour of aerobics. Now, some days I miss aerobics, but I have a thing. I have to get 365 hours of aerobics per year. So that just means that the next day I got to do at least 90 minutes, and another day that week, I have to make it up, right?
Wow.
The only way to get to the 365 hours, So I said, you would think I'd look a lot better than I do with all the exercise, right? But the other side of it is the stress of the exercise. You have to relax. You have to rest, right? So there's a yin and yang of that, right? What say you?
Yeah, 100%. You can actually overdo it. You can overdo the exercise thing. I do see it less common. It's much less common if you take the population in general. It's the smaller subset, but you can actually overdo it. Your body does need time to rest, to rejuvenate, to rebuild. The magic, we'll just jump into this right now, but during our sleep, right? That is the time where our body can assimilate, all the proteins from our meals. It can make the new cells, get rid of the old cells, recycle the stuff that's still usable, dump the other stuff that we poop out the next day. Like that time when we sleep is magic for our youthfulness, for our energy, our longevity. Sleep, I'll be honest, I was the worst offender of, I used to say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Anybody that maybe a Cure fan out there, right? The Cure, the band, The Cure, they had a song called Sleep When You're Dead. And that was my mantra for decades, up until about 10 years ago, about a decade ago, I changed because I turned 40 and I was like, dang, something is not quite right. I'm eating the same. I'm working out the same. I got no energy, or I had a lot less energy. I was starting to get, still had kind of my six pack, but I had maybe a little bit of softness on top. And I'm like, what's going on here? Nothing changed. Well, the thing that wasn't optimal in my regime was my sleep. I thought I could get by on 4 to 6 hours. I never slept more than 4 to 6 hours for 20 years. Now, minimum 7 hours, mostly closer to 8 hours, because that's when the magic happens. That's when your body rebuilds. That's when your body goes into this whole phase called autophagy. I'm sure Vinny's talked about it.
Sure.
That's sort of the fountain of youth, is during your sleep and when you're not putting food in your body.
Yeah.
Vinny's probably talked about this, but one of the problems with humanity today is we put something in our mouth 16 to 18 hours a day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, 100 years ago, we might have eaten 8 hours out of the day max, because when we got up in the morning, we didn't have a refrigerator. We didn't have a pantry. We had to figure out what animal we were going to milk or kill, or what we were going to pull out of the field or whatever. We had to prepare it, and it took us some time. So we only ate, you know, maybe 8 or 10 hours out of the day max. Today we eat 16 to 18 hours a day, and it's screwed up our metabolism and left us devoid of energy. Because I'm sure Vinny's talked about this. When we are eating all day long, we can only power ourselves to that next meal 2 to 3 hours away.
Yeah.
We have no more energy because we're just dipping into that immediate energy source, which is the glucose or the carbohydrates. We're never dipping into that long-term energy, which is the fat.
Running on.
So that's number one. You get your macronutrients right. You eat real food with protein and fat being the predominant macronutrients. You're going to be way better off as far as energy goes. Also, I don't eat when I first roll out of bed. And I think for most people, that will work as you get used to it. Given a little time for your body to kind of wake up. I just drink a full glass of water when I wake up, but I don't eat any food. And I go for my walk or my surf or my mountain bike ride or my trail run, whatever that is for the day, wherever I am in the world. And I do that without having eaten. I eat after I'm done.
Yeah.
Or an hour or two later, depending on what my work schedule looks like that day. But when we eat every 2 hours all day long, we have 6 meals a day, 8 meals a day, snacks in between. It's one of the worst things we can do for our metabolism. It wrecks our mitochondria. Mitochondria, which give us energy, right? That's where the ATP is made. Those are sort of our energy source for the body. And when we wreck our mitochondria by eating all the time, we don't have much energy. It's science. I could go into the details of the electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation, but I won't.
That would go too far. People would just tune out. But look, I mean, I was like you for a lot of years. I was into ultra cycling and this whole thing. Sleep when I'm dead. Sleep 4 hours a night, and proud of it. And I'm almost 1,000% sure that's how I ended up catching. I call it catching because I was chasing it really hard. Leukemia. You know, all of a sudden I came down with a real bad case of leukemia. It was like, look, when you're that worn out all the time and you're running on empty and you're proud of it, eventually, you know, if you're worn down, something's going to seep in. You know, water seeks its own level. Something seeped in and it wasn't pretty. I mean, I'm happy to be here today. I shouldn't have been. Right. And you know, that's when I started going, okay, 6 hours minimum, right? Yeah. 6 hours. And then once I got to 6, all right, 6.5. It took me forever. I'm sure it took you a long time, right? You didn't just go from 4 hours, 7 and 8 hours. I had to creep up. I'm now at 7.5, and sometimes 8, but usually 7.5. It took me forever to get there. My brain would wake me up after 4 hours. I would have to fight it. I used 1 milligram melatonin under the tongue. I did everything to teach myself to stay in bed longer. It took forever, but it worked.
Let me give everybody a few just simple free hacks that they can do to optimize their sleep. Number one, I recommend everybody not only have a nighttime curfew, like what time you normally go to bed, make it a routine, but we should all have a food curfew. We shouldn't be eating right up until bedtime. We should have a couple-hour break. I shoot for about 3 when I'm on the weekends and out with maybe my wife and go on a date. Maybe it's 2 hours because we eat out late or something, but I usually shoot for 2 to 3 hours before bed. I don't eat any calories. Yes, you can drink a little water, but Vinnie will tell you when you get to be a little older, you don't want to drink a bunch of water at night because you're going to get up and pee. So you don't want to do that. That disrupts your sleep.
You know what? When you're my age, you can dehydrate yourself. Somehow you'll get up and pee.
Yeah. So don't eat right before bed. Take a little bit of a food curfew. So I have this 3-2-1 rule. 3 hours before bed, I try not to eat. Okay. 2 hours before bed, that's my ultimate goal. I don't get it very often, is no screen time. I try to read books. I try to do other work that I can do without looking at a screen. Most people, that's kind of impossible. So I tell them 1 hour, I'm cool with that. If you can turn the screens off 1 hour before you hit the pillow, I'm good with that. If you're looking at screens right up until the moment you lay your head down, you're going to be laying down, but your mind's doing this. You know, you're wired, but you're tired and you can't go to sleep. So turn the screens off at least an hour before bed. Then part of your whole routine thing, make your bedroom, I call it, because I'm a dude, I call it the cave, the sleep cave. My wife calls it the sleep sanctuary, right? It's got to be a place that's quiet. It's got to be dark. I turn off all lights. I put tape over any kind of electronic that has a little blue light. I put tape over these things. I have electric tape over all these little blue lights. So it's dark as dark could be, like a cave, you know, back in the day. You may have slept in a cave. Keep it dark. Keep it cool, right? If it's summertime and it's 100 degrees outside, you got to have some AC going or something, because otherwise you ain't going to be sleeping very well. You'll wake up hot. You'll wake up uncomfortable. So you got to have some sort of mechanism to keep you cool. So cool, dark, quiet, and whatever you got to do, you know, buy some earplugs. I live in Hawaii, and I'll tell you, those roosters, I don't know, Vinnie, if you remember, but they are going off all night long. They start about midnight. So sometimes if I'm working late, they start before I even go to sleep. So I got to deal with these guys before I even go to sleep. I'm wishing I was like Vinnie with a shotgun and I could just blow the, you know, because they just, So I use earplugs if I can, you know, whatever works for me. I got 6 kids and they might wake me up, but try to keep it quiet, try to keep it cool, dark, and routine, and turn off those screens about an hour minimum before bed. And then that last hour, just do something that you enjoy, whether it's reading a book, you know, writing a little in a journal. I find that I'm like most people, I forget stuff. So if I don't write crap down, I may forget it the next day. So I like to unwind with a little bit of a, you know, journal writing or a gratitude or just listening to music or reading a book. I love reading at night, actually, not on the computer, not on a Kindle. I like a real book, you know, this sort of thing, right? Paper, I can page through it. I can flip through it. So those are some easy, simple tips. Make it a routine, make it simple. You don't have to buy the Oura Ring. Like, I tried one of those things. You know what it did, Vinnie, to me? I don't know if you tried this and had the experience.
I have not.
It made me more ADHD about my dang sleep. I'm like, oh, crap, last night I got a bad sleep score. I got to do something different tonight because my sleep score sucked. And then I was overthinking it. And you and I know when we wake up in the morning, when we have a good night's sleep, we know what that feels like. We don't need a number to tell us. Forget the dumb fancy watch or a ring, wherever that thing is. You don't need that stuff.
I said that. I'll never forget. My wife got her first Apple Watch.
Yeah.
She goes, this thing tells me when I'm sweating. I said, honey, I have a fucking t-shirt that tells me when I'm sweating. You know, and you spent $600. I got this for free. You know, it's like we don't need all the technology. We know what we're doing. You know, it's funny. You mentioned getting dark. At a certain time, we start turning all the lights down around the house. All the lights, just everything. The only thing I'm guilty of is I tweet. You know, like I don't just. I'm not a guy. I don't walk around with the phone in my hand. I refuse to walk around, doing this.
Start walking into stuff. And
about 20 or 30 minutes before I go to bed, I catch on the tweets where I just go through them. I just run through them really fast on the phone. Just run through them because these people are, they're tweeting to me. I'm going to tweet back. So I'll do that. If I see it's a bunch of vegans telling me I'm killing sentient beings, I just go past those. I don't have time for them, right? I just go past them. I block them. I'm not going to sit there and have an argument with an idiot. I'm trying to help people who want to be helped. And then I put the phone down. That's it. The phone's not touched anymore. I'm just in a house that's quiet. Sometimes I'll put on classical music in my office. I could turn these lights down in my office to where it's like an old-timey nightclub. You know, the lights dim way low and do the whole thing. And I just stay like that for a half an hour. Because if you look at a phone right before you close your eyes, you don't realize that the phone, the computer, the iPad, all of it has a strobing effect. And you'll close your eyes and you'll see strobing. And you didn't realize that was happening until you closed your eyes. That's why I get this done. I spend a half an hour just sitting around doing stuff. Sometimes I read. I'll just listen to music and just close my eyes in my office and listen to music. And then I'll go upstairs. Serena's already sleeping and the lights are already off and dark and everything else. I just jump into bed out like that. Done.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
No, there's
Like
something to be said for that. Like one of my favorite things that I spent money on, my wife arm wrestled me for it. She was upset. Every room in the house, I put a dimmer switch. And she thought, why do we need those darn dimmer switches? But I do exactly like what you do. And then when those things go down, I put the red, they're cheap. You can get them on Amazon. Red night lights. They're red. Okay. So they don't mess with your vision at night. They're not going to be so blaring that if you have to get up to pee, you can't go back to sleep. The red, they're like $5 a pair on Amazon. It's cheap. It's affordable. We can all do this. The red lights at night, so key, and dim things down. Just remember what we did 100 years ago, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
We didn't die of heart disease back then. Yeah, maybe we died of an infection because we didn't have antibiotics, but we didn't die of heart disease. We didn't die of cancer. We didn't die of, all these things that are preventable. Diabetes type 2, which is nearly 100% preventable. It's got to go back to the way we used to do things. We moved our body all day long.
Yeah.
We ate at a couple of times. We didn't snack at all, right? It was simple. Life was simple.
All you have to do is look at the Inuits and look at the, some of these tribes in Africa. And what you'll learn is they still, the Inuits have heart disease now because we introduced them to Oreos and everything else. These guys were just sitting up there eating whale blubber, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Maasai tribe is still untouched. I mean, these people look amazing into their 80s and 90s. They look amazing. They don't have tooth decay. They don't have heart disease. It's unheard of, right? Because they're not eating junk. So live more like the Maasai tribe. We're going to leave it right there, folks. I have a special going on at nsngfoods.com. You guys want to save 20% one-time fee on my UltraFat, go there at checkout. Even if you have a subscription or anything else, you can get a one-time 20% off by putting in promo code Vinnie at checkout for UltraFat. That's at nsngfoods.com. We're going to actually hopefully get Dr. Thomas Hemingway back whenever he, when is your book coming out? You don't know yet, right, Tom?
So November is the time frame right now. November, it's in the final edits. It's getting close, but these things take time. Vinnie can tell you that. So November, but I do have a website, thepreventablebook.com. Easiest place to find me is just ThomasHemingway.com or just Instagram, Dr. Thomas Hemingway, Doc Hemingway on Twitter. Easy. ThomasHemingway.com has all the stuff. You can find me there.
One more question. Are any relation to the Hemingway?
So we do have a little bit, if you go back far enough, we do have a shared ancestry. Most of my ancestors came from, England, that area, from a place called Yorkshire, but nothing super close. I didn't get invited to the parties at Muriel's house or anything like that. I do have the same name. We spell it exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And distantly, if you go back far enough, we do have some connections, but not super close. It's a cool name anyway.
One of the girls died, right? Which one died? I
can't recall, but Muriel's the one most are familiar with, the actress, and of course Ernest and his
but they're both actresses. Hemingway. I'm going to put in.
Okay, I don't remember, to be honest. But Ernest, if you guys, one of the coolest places I've been, I went to his Florida Keys home. They have all the extra-legged cats over there, just super interesting. Really an interesting dude. I happen to like a lot of his stuff, the Old Man and the Sea, Farewell to Arms, all that cool stuff. I tell people, the stuff that I write is usually the boring medical stuff, but this book that I wrote is actually pretty entertaining. I'm trying to be like Vinnie, we give you information, but we try to do a little entertaining at the same time, because why not, right? You live longer if you laugh a little.
Whatever you do, try to be like Vinnie. It was Margot Hemingway and Muriel Hemingway.
Yeah, there you go.
One of them passed away. I think one of them had a drug problem or alcohol problem or something, which seems
it was pretty prominent in the whole family. I mean, really prominent in the family. Of course, Ernest was he was an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic.
My favorite writer, as a matter of fact, when I wrote Fitness Confidential, I would channel him because I'm such a fan of Hemingway's work. You mentioned Old Man and Seeing Some, and he was such a he would minimize, sentences instead of bloviating. He would minimize, and at one point, I took 10 or 15,000 words out of my text just by going, okay, what would Ernest Hemingway? How would he write this sentence? He wouldn't, put that much flour in it. He would take some of it out, and I did a lot of that. Of course, no one would ever go, this book reminds me of Hemingway. No one would ever say that.
Well, there we'll go, Vinnie. We'll write a book together, and you'll get the Hemingway on the book, man. And we can have that goal be super succinct, laconic, and just to the point. We'll do it.
I gotta go look up laconic. All right, folks. At some point, Dr. Thomas Hemingway reminded me of this song. I cannot remember why, but I'm going to play it here at the end of the show. Hang on, Thomas. I want to say goodbye to you off the air. As a matter of fact, let me turn off this because, let me say this before we go, folks. Amazon, before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com, click through the banner. It puts coal in the fire and gets my train down the track. Also, we have a super fan page at VinnieTortorich.com. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to YouTube.